So did you guys dive deep enough into Josh Sweat's bio from the Eagles to see his favorite quote? Did you see his favorite quote? I've been struggling with this a little bit, I'll be honest with you. Just add it to my list of struggles over here. His
I thought
favorite
we weren't getting
quote.
into that, Paul.
Well, hopefully I can defy the skeptics. Josh Sweat likes the following. Just because you are right doesn't mean you are correct. And I mulled that over. In fact, I'm buying myself some more time by saying, welcome to Cardinals Underground, brought to you by Pacific Office Automation. Dani Sureck, Darren Urban, Paulie Podcast, at a loss to exactly explain the meaning of said quote. Dani, any thoughts?
I'd love to hear an example.
So I'm not going to lie. I threw it into ChatGPT, and there were a few competing theories as to what that quote means. I think the most prominent of which says, this quote reminds us that while being right in your opinion is subjective, being correct requires objective evidence and factual accuracy. Words to live by, maybe even a game plan on this edition of Cardinals Underground. Hence, the reason I brought it up. Before you get all full of your own opinion, make sure that you remember just because you believe you are right doesn't mean you are correct.
It sounds like the perfect quote to use on your teenagers, Paul.
That's right. And you know what? If it's on ChatGPT, maybe they'll actually pay it some respect.
My first thought is to use on you, Paul, that famous Dan Aykroyd line to Jane Curtin on Saturday Night Live, but I'm gonna not.
My.
That would be rude.
By the way, did you see Wall Street Journal last week did a story?
No.
That you know everyone is behind the times, and Wall Street Journal finally runs a story as to the frequency with which high school students are cheating.
Oh God.
With ChatGPT.
Aren't they like 3 years behind?
At least.
Trust me, I've been hearing
least.
about it for at least that long from my wife, the high school English teacher.
You know what she should do? What my son's English teacher did. Their entire senior thesis paper had to be handwritten in class only.
And that's what they're talking about.
Are they learning cursive anymore?
I don't know.
No,
well,
that's another.
I mean, when do you ever use cursive? Only when you write a check, and nobody writes a check anymore. So why learn the cursive, right? So,
signature,
anyway,
an autograph.
Okay.
Do you write checks, Dani?
Not really.
But you know how.
I do know how.
See, I don't think my kids really know how to write a check.
Do you have an auto pen, Dani? Let's not go there.
Yeah, let's not go there. What do you? Jeez.
All right. So there's that, Josh Sweat. There's also the way I summed it up on a recent radio show, and I said the following. You guys can disagree, and I know you will. I know you deep down you want to disagree. So here we go.
Never, not you, Paul.
Was there a team in free agency with a greater need than the Arizona Cardinals at edge rusher? Look at all the teams with all the needs.
Cincinnati Bengals.
Seattle didn't have a quarterback.
Well,
Trading away Geno Smith.
true, but I'm guessing they had the Sam Darnold ace in their pocket before.
What about the
they
Giants,
made that trade?
Steelers?
Yes, you're right. Both of them could use a quarterback right now. That is a salient point. I enjoyed the Cam Hayward, by the way, the podcast where he told Aaron Rodgers, "Yeah, I ain't doing no stinking darkness retreat. I'm not recruiting Aaron Rodgers. Either he wants to be here or not."
I don't want to get off track because I'm sure we're going to get back to that need with Josh Sweat, but I will say that it is crazy to me. We were going to talk about this later, but we might as well do it now. If I'm one of those teams, I'm like, look, Aaron, either pick or we're moving on. Like, what are we doing here? What is Aaron Rodgers doing other than staring at the ocean?
Well, he's got to go to Ashland, Oregon for the darkness retreat, where he said he touched some of the answers. That was my favorite quote from last year. You know what? I think you guys need a little more time to prepare. And with that in mind, just a reminder there, Cardinals Underground, especially now that we're on camera, you're always being recorded. At any point, you could be quoted. And here's a new wrinkle. At any moment, you could be taken out of context by our Jim Alejandro.
Please tell me you're clipping that. You have to clip that one.
Can we have like an out-of-context blooper reel or something?
Pull the ripcord. Let's do it.
I'm going to pass to Darren.
Okay.
I'm going to defer.
90% of success in life is just showing up.
How did we get here from there?
Just a dude in a barrel.
What situation are you mosh pitting at a football game?
Phil, Dimebag, Daryl, the whole crew, these pencil necks like yours truly.
I don't care what anybody wants to say. You're getting dinged for that.
No soup for you.
Who does this guy think he is?
So, back to Hooters.
Let's talk about hand size, baby. Pull really hard.
What?
Torture chamber.
I could give a flying fig.
Get your own segment.
Wham, bam, slam, cam.
No.
Oh, I like it.
I don't want to throw cold water on what you're talking about, Paul, because that's just not who I am. I'd never say never, because that's just being stupid.
He chooses violence.
Unoriginal.
Look, it's pretty simple. I'm physical.
I apologize for anyone I offended. When you cuss, it's because you're being dumb. I'm not sure I've ever heard Paul utter a bad word.
Let's get back to Hooters.
Yes. If you're walking and it's crowded and there's like limited spaces where people can walk back and forth, don't stop!
He gone.
Put on your damn human blinker and pull to the side.
That's horrible.
Hey, come on back. I'll get you a few beers.
Oh my gosh, new fear unlocked.
Clip that.
So every one of those quotes actually happened. None of those quotes actually appeared in the sequence they were just edited into.
I had no idea that was happening. That was amazing. The Hooters line got me again. That got me in real time again, Paul.
What's the thing where the networks have like the big to-do when they show all their new shows to their sponsors and everything? Are we going to have one of those and we'll play that?
Could throw that in there, as a trailer of sorts. So
speaking of out of context real quickly.
Here we go.
And you never know where this is going to be seen. After last week's show, winding down, going to bed, my wife is reading before she goes to sleep. Now she's reading on an iPad, so like the lights are out in the room, so she's got an iPad, she's reading, and I've decided to go back and look back on last week's show a little bit and parts of it. And I've got headphones in because I don't want to bother her while she's reading. Except there was a couple times where I started cracking up, and in the quiet of a room, when you can't hear anything else, your better half starting to laugh and crack up with no context gets a little irritating apparently, because after about the fourth or fifth time, she drops her iPad and she's like, "Oh my God, will you stop?" And then she looks over at the screen and sees what I'm looking at because she didn't know what I was. She's like, "Oh, and that's even worse. You're laughing at yourself? You're watching yourself and laughing about it? That's ridiculous." And then she's like, "And now you're going to talk about it on the podcast." So I just want to make her telling the truth there.
So are you saying you might be worthy of inclusion into the power poll of incompetence and ineptitude? Should I save that for a little bit later, according to your wife?
I'm probably been there already.
I mean, this isn't the mailbag. I'm not really taking submissions, but I'll take some under consideration. Maybe, just maybe. So, okay. Well, not winning behavior. We'll have that a little bit later. Danny will help us get cultured a little bit later. I don't know if that falls under either category.
No.
Okay.
Probably not.
But
I just want to throw it out there. Josh Sweat.
To the edge rusher.
They did need Josh Sweat, I'll say that.
You retweeted Pro Football Focus about an hour or so ago, the most improved position groups in the NFL following free agency. They had the Bears O-line, they had the Vikings O-line, they had the Giants secondary, but the first team and unit listed, Cardinals defensive line. Hello. So what does this mean now when you look at a lineup along the front, at least defensive line? Bilal Nichols, Justin Jones, Darius Robinson. I'm going to share with you a little stat on Darius Robinson a little bit later. You added Dalvin Tomlinson, Dante Stills, L.J. Collier signs in the line that is dotted. Does that mean the Cardinals are going elsewhere in an ultra-loaded defensive line draft? Danny, you were out in the combine.
The possibility has increased, absolutely. I don't think it is still out of the realm to tackle that position, a defensive tackle or an edge at 16. Now,
was that pun intended right there?
What'd I say?
Tackle that position.
No, but you completely threw off my train of thought.
Oh, sorry.
It is still in the realm to draft one of those positions at 16 because there is such strength there. Not even just the depth, but you can get a starter at that position at 16. You can also probably still find a starter down at 47 with your second pick, which opens things up at 16 for other options. And when you're looking at positions that are not as deep, that are still a need for this Cardinals team, and where you're looking at the strengths of this draft is, I'm looking at the offensive line. So I'm thinking either way, it will still likely be a trenches position, but bringing in some help in the pass rushing room, defensive line room, absolutely opens the door up a little more to draft a different position at 16.
I 100% agree with Danny. I think this definitely opens a door because I think when you talk about the depth of the defensive line in this draft, you're also talking about maybe limited amount of offensive linemen that makes sense, especially higher in the draft. So this gives you the option to go after him. Now, other teams are going to have that same option. If knowing that they could get a defensive lineman later, who knows how many of these offensive linemen are going to be there. I also think that this puts squarely into play something that none of us will be surprised at if it happens, which is that the Cardinals aren't picking at 16 when first round happens, and it's somewhere in the 20s maybe, because Monty Ossenfort's looking for another pick or two and is willing to trade down a few spots because of that depth, because of the options you're going to have. And as Dani knows firsthand, because quite frankly, most of the information I got on this topic was through her and Craig Relu's interviews at the Combine, there is a amount of players that are probably considered first roundish, and where the Cardinals are picking is probably a little out of that range. So dropping from 16 to, 22, 24 probably doesn't impact the quality of player as much as maybe if you were at 4 or 5.
Yeah, what was his comment to you guys that in terms of Pro Bowlers in this draft, he sees 7 or 8 right now?
I believe that was Daniel Jeremiah, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah,
okay.
think, yeah.
And I bring that up because Daniel Jeremiah 3.0 dropped earlier today. And at number 16, envelope please, Gray Zabel, interior offensive lineman, North Dakota State, played 4 of the 5 spots at North Dakota State, where he turned down hundreds of thousands of dollars to go from SBS to FBS, right? And he's a huge dude, known as a tough guy, 6'6", 312. Says they still has definitely has a possibility to put on more muscle and more body mass. But yeah, he's a tough guy, and he turned down a lot of big-time D1 offers to play with his brother and win a national championship at North Dakota State.
Can you imagine, let's say he puts on 20 pounds of muscle, and you have a 6'6", 330-pound guard?
See, that is definitely a prospect I could see the Cardinals taking at 16.
Yes,
There's no doubt.
I agree.
If that guy is there, especially after we've seen free agency unfold, and there wasn't a veteran guard added. Now, reports are they went on Will Fries, and Will Fries got ridiculous money from Minnesota and didn't even have to get a medical examination or determination on his knee because he suffered that injury last year, and that's why I guess Seattle bowed out of that sweepstakes. But, yeah, I could definitely see that. But to your point too, Darren, I mean, if there's 3 or 4 guards that are all closely rated together and you drop down to 22 or 25 thinking one of those is still there, absolutely.
The other thing I've found interesting as we go through this process is there's a lot of guys who played tackle in college that are being projected as guards. And obviously this coaching staff loves the versatility of a guy being able to play a couple different places anyways. But even though it doesn't seem like there's a ton of guards per se that are highly ranked. You could definitely see guys that have played tackle the last couple of years in college that are going to bounce inside when we get to the pros.
With this hypothetical, if the Cardinals do select an interior offensive lineman with their first pick, 16 or wherever it might be, that doesn't necessarily guarantee that they're going to come in and be a starter. Someone like Paris Johnson Jr. to come in and start and play every snap his rookie year is not how it always pans out. Offensive linemen in particular typically need a few years to really put on that weight and really get strong enough and be dependable enough to be a starter. So if that is what the Cardinals decide to do, it'll be a fun competition throughout training camp with Isaiah Adams going into year 2, because presumably where things stand right now, Adams is your starting right guard.
He's the sleeper of the entire offseason to me, Isaiah Adams, which might be a reason why they were not active in free agency going for a veteran guard. What do they know that we have no way of knowing, in that what sort of progress has he made in the weight room with his strength? They like his mental makeup. They like his athleticism. They like his technique. They just wanted him to get stronger. So if he's had like a Zach Allen offseason and crushed it and put on 15 good pounds of strength and body mass, I could see Isaiah Adams being your starting right guard going into camp. Put it this way, at this point, I don't expect Will Hernandez to return. Just like I don't expect Kaiser White to return. I think we would have heard something on both fronts if there was any chance.
The Hernandez thing is interesting because he's still only 6 months removed from an ACL. He might be a guy that everybody, including this team, might be willing to bet. I'm not saying he's coming back. I don't know. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're moving on. But that might be something that if you don't have a contract, you're going to need to get a little further down the rehab trail before you might get one.
Maybe.
The Kaiser thing, I understand. But I'm with you. And the thing about Isaiah Adams is people forget because they had like 17 third-round picks last year. Like, you know, he was a third-round pick. It's not like this is like a sixth-round project.
Yep.
So
we know this much. Victor Dimukeji has signed with the Giants. So let's see here. And then there were four players left from the 4 draft classes before Monty Ossenfort and Jonathan Gannon. Kyler Murray, Trey McBride, Zaven Collins, Jesse Luketa, who is no longer free agent, no longer on a contract. So I guess 3.
Zaven Collins the last time the Cardinals had pick 16.
True. Craig Grelu and Rob Fredrickson both piled on me because I was trying to further my hot take that Zaven Collins, the reason no middle linebacker has been signed in free agency
People have been saying that online.
Right?
Moving back inside.
Hello? I don't necessarily. Well, let's put it this way. Mack Wilson Sr. is no longer needed on the edge, right? I mean, that was out of necessity, middle of last season.
I think yes.
So, okay.
As much as he was, I still think they'll use him
I still think,
Maybe. And there's nothing, even if he was wearing the green dot and he was your Mike linebacker, there's nothing precluding Nick Rollis, knowing the way he loves to dial it up, from still using Mack Wilson Sr. off the edge. We know that. I mean, when Zaven Collins can patrol center field at Miami and check Tyreek Hill 30 yards down the field, anything is possible. But what about Mack Wilson Sr. as the middle linebacker of this team?
You mean as the green dot, middle linebacker?
Yes.
I mean, I think it's possible. I certainly am not ruling anything out. I'm very curious to see the one thing that I think we've learned about Nick Rollis is he wants to do a lot of these different things, and I know we've had a lot of conversation about what he's done because he wants to and what he's done out of necessity. I do think he likes mixing things up. I do think he likes moving people around. I think he thinks it makes it for an effective defense. And if that's the case, it's real easy for us to fall into a rut of trying to determine who's starting where and where they're playing. And there's going to be so much movement and guys moving around that it might not be worth the breath in some ways. You know what I'm saying?
Do you guys remember about 6 weeks ago or so, we posed the following question, and it went something like this. Instead of forcing Nick Rollis to go 11-card pickup, as we called it, right? Dial up all these crazy schemes and blitzes, instead of him having to force offenses to answer who, when, where, who, when, and where is the pass rush coming from, what if he could only rush 4 and force an offense to answer how? How are you going to stop these dudes, these pass rushers, these playmakers, these difference makers? I mean, to me, what he did at times last year was miraculous. After all the injuries in the defensive front, the lack of a premier pass rusher. Now, if you give him Josh Sweat and he's that dude, and Dalvin Tomlinson, and you return Bilal Nichols, Justin Jones, Darius Robinson is that guy. By the way, my stat on Darius Robinson, Braden Fiske, and in the last 10 games of the year had 7.5 of his 8.5 sacks. The rookie D tackle for the Rams. Meaning, he took the first half of his rookie year, sort of learned the game, navigate the learning curve, get his face mask kicked in a few times, and then all of a sudden go, oh, okay, this is how they end up. Boom! And he got some traction, and he started making plays. Darius Robinson was never afforded a second half of his rookie season, right? So anyway, if you factor all that in, I guess what I'm saying is one of the most intriguing things is what if Nick Rollis can affect the quarterback with only 4? What does that mean for the Cardinals schemes?
What was that for, Darren?
That was my
excited.
That would
was
be
that
amazing.
That would be amazing.
Was that me being overly dramatic? Maybe.
No,
I don't think that's
yeah.
dramatic at all when you look at how the defense performed overall. Yes, stopping the run was a problem at times. That's what the Cardinals have addressed. And exactly what you're touching on, Paul, too. The biggest free agency signing last year in Nichols and Jones played a total of 9 games together. Robinson only played the final 6 of his rookie year. So you are still going to get a difference in the defensive line this year than you had last year because of the injuries that group was dealing with. it's exciting when you think about what Sweat can do off the edge and what that's going to do for whoever is opposite of him. It will be interesting to see the type of rotation that occurs with Sweat if he is somebody who is going to be out there a little bit longer, play some more snaps, which is what I would expect just from what you are getting out of that kind of player, which I like. I've mentioned this in the past of having like a Chandler Jones, and opposite was Marcus Golden, who was able to kind of go off because Jones was requiring so much attention, and then you saw that kind of drop off when you didn't have Chandler Jones opposite. I think it will be something similar with Josh Sweat, and I'm excited to see B.J. Ojulari return. We didn't get to see him last year because of that knee injury. That's a name that might be a little bit forgotten because you didn't get to see him on the field. And another big question mark is, what do you have in Xavier Thomas? Coming off a rookie year, you saw a few flashes, nothing huge. This is a big offseason for him as well because the opportunity is there in that outside linebackers room to go and perform as opposite of Sweat.
To me, as much as Sweat is going to make an impact, which I do think he's going to, the Tomlinson signing really, really caught my attention because, and it was funny, as Sweat came out of one of his interviews, somebody asked him, like, it's too bad you couldn't play here. And he mentioned something kind of like off the cuff, like, yeah, me and Milton were trying to get to the same place. It would have been interesting had that been able to happen, Milton Williams, the defensive tackle. But the fact that this team didn't get Milton Williams and we're still able to get Dalvin Tomlinson, who, obviously older by, 6 years than Williams. But I really, really like that signing. I think when you add him in to the other guys, the Darius Robinson, which you already were talking about, the bringing back Jones and Nichols, you have LJ Collier. I really like where they are right now. Now, again, health is a big, big part of all of this, and things change very dramatically if key players get hurt. But right now, those two signings, Dalvin Tomlinson never gets hurt. Josh Sweat really doesn't get hurt. Now, we were saying the same things about Bilal Nichols and Justin Jones last year.
And Jonah Williams on the offensive line.
But fingers crossed, I really like how this sets up.
The Cardinals lost Roy Lopez. Everybody loves Roy Lopez. Arizona loves Roy Lopez and his family. And go to the Cardinals YouTube page right now. There's an outstanding story about Roy and his family. It's really emotional, really poignant. And it's a great salute, right? A great final adieu to Roy Lopez, who left for Detroit and got a nice contract. 1 year, nearly $5 million. Cardinals put $16 million guaranteed, reportedly, into Dalvin Tomlinson.
Yeah.
I mean, they, at least based on the salaries, they upgraded at that position. And you're talking about a guy who last year set career highs, Dalvin Tomlinson, in quarterback hits, quarterback pressures, and knockdowns for a woeful Cleveland team that must have been a little tough to get all energized for when you're 3-14.
Tomlinson was a cap casualty in Cleveland. What are you going to do when you're paying Myles Garrett what you're paying him? So the Cardinals, I don't even want to say you didn't luck out. You earned it. It is telling when you have players like Tomlinson and Sweat who can go to multiple different places. Multiple teams are interested in them, willing to give them similar contracts to choose to come to Arizona. We've talked about it since Austin Fort and Gannon got here with their staffs, and it shows on the film of players around the league are noticing what this Cardinals team is putting out there on tape and the effort and how they're being coached and to want to come here and be in Arizona.
And you know what? We talked about, one of the great things about going from the college game to the NFL as a coach is you don't have to recruit anymore. Not exactly 100% accurate. I mean, Sean McVay pursuing Davante Adams, right? I mean, that was a recruiting/troll job. I mean, he was darn near a stalker to hear Davante Adams talk about Sean McVay coming after him. We know Josh Sweat had the competitive advantage of knowing Jonathan Gannon, and vice versa. Cardinals had that competitive advantage. But to hear Dalvin Tomlinson tell us that he had noticed Gannon for years and noticed that guys on the other sideline were really energized, really having a lot of fun, playing for that coaching staff and playing in that scheme. Players, as we know players and players talk to players. And it sounds like the word is getting around, including that A grade he got on the report card, Jonathan Gannon.
This is true. Although I'm also going to say that Dalvin Tomlinson said after he got cut that he was a little bit nervous. Yeah, he probably figured he'd have some suitors, but he's the kind of guy who likes to know what he's going to be doing the next day. So that made him a little uncomfortable. And when you get a call from your agent saying, yeah, this team's willing to give you $16 million guaranteed, I'm guessing that also.
And it's in beautiful Arizona where you're not dealing with a winter like Cleveland.
I do not want to underplay what you're saying. I do think the culture matters. I think Gannon matters. But again, Paul, you've done this as long as I have. You've been doing it longer than I have. You're older than me. The bottom line is these guys go where the money is.
Money talks.
I'll give you what's a better example? Because you're right. I mean, if one offer is significantly better than the other, decision is made right there. I get it. But I will say Mack Wilson Sr. told us in the Big Red Rage last year that he had an identical offer from the Patriots.
Right.
At the very end, the Patriots matched the Cardinals' offer, and he decided to come to AZ because he liked just the direction, way he was trending, the vibe he was getting from the building.
And I think he was also going to get a better opportunity to do more.
Yeah, maybe.
So, and again, I don't want to there are multiple things that play into this, but no one is going to a city for $5 million less a year because of whatever.
You know what I do like about Dalvin Tomlinson, though? It's just like Roy Lopez. He's a 3-time state high school wrestling champion. If you gave me a choice, my nose tackle should be an excellent wrestler. Corey Peters was a state champion wrestler. There's just something about, especially in this day and age of the tush push, right? Low man wins. You got to get in there, and you got to figure out the leverage game. I mean, if you've been a state champion wrestler, you can't tell me that isn't a competitive advantage.
That's the trajectory.
Did you ever wrestle, Paul?
No.
You're kind of that wiry, strong dude. Like
there were two
at
things.
The lowest weight class.
Paul strong.
There were two things they tried to get me into, and I said no. Wrestling was one. The other was the pole vault. They said I would have been good at the pole vault, and I didn't know how to take that exactly.
What was your 40?
We never ran a 40. I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, if we
did,
it was a
field?
handheld thing. No, it's high school football, and that's about it. Yeah.
I remember one time, one of my last years of Little League, the coach.
We should just edit that out. Darren shouldn't even bring that up.
No, my last.
Even though I was all Santa Teresa Athletic League. Anyway, go ahead.
There you go. As opposed to me, one of my last years of Little League, like the first day of practice, the coach had us all run around the bases, and I got around the bases, and this is in front of the whole team, and it's like one of the first practices, so you're just getting to know everybody. And I crossed home plate, and he goes, "Oh my God, I could have timed you with a sundial." I was hurt, Paul.
Maybe this is where Dani needs to take over.
Yeah, don't look at me. I was good at sports.
And you know what? Let the goodness persist and maybe wash over those of us here, okay? The unwashed masses in this edition of Getting Cultured. Dani, we'll segue to you.
Getting Cultured with Dani. It is not just directed at Paul.
Am I the default uncultured Philistine around here?
Yes.
You got me very excited now.
I am on social media and consume more pop culture than both of you combined.
I think I'm being unfairly profiled, but go ahead.
Let's go. Sure, it's nice to be back. I missed you guys.
It's sort of mandatory when Darren and Paul start talking about past athletic non-glory.
Yeah, bring in the young guns.
We really have to change the topic.
This is true.
Yeah.
So getting cultured, I don't want to take down your expectations. It was a little tough this week. I feel like there was nothing super crazy, but here we go. I am starting with the big ticket item. Forever 21 has filed for bankruptcy for the second time and will be closing their stores.
I'm sorry.
Okay. All right.
Very quick anecdote. I had never heard of Forever 21 at one point. I was out with Chris Melvin and Mike Helm one time, and for whatever reason, they brought up the name of the store. I think Chris was talking about something, and they brought it up just saying, they said Forever 21. I'm like, what is that, a strip club?
Oh, jeez.
You can get anything there. Truthfully, it was utter chaos, but in a good way. Nowadays, I feel like if you have an event, you don't know what store to go to. Forever 21, it didn't matter what event you had going on. You could walk in that day and you could find something you needed. Now, there would be no way to tell anybody where you got it because nothing was organized in that store. However, it really does hurt my heart that is closing, and likely because of online shopping and how easy that is these days. But I feel for Forever 21.
So was it more of like a Nordstrom Rack type of place?
Oh, Nordstrom Rack is like 10 levels above what Forever 21 is.
My
it's
bad.
not necessarily the best quality. You can find something that can last for like 10 years. Oh. Think of like graphic tees, neon leggings, shoes, purses, sequins, homecoming dresses, whatever you need. Forever 21 had it.
Yeah, don't act like Melvin and Helm didn't have their own rewards card, right? They got their own points as frequent customers. Come on.
I felt bad.
So that is how news. March Madness begins this week, Thursday. I would like to hear, have you guys made brackets?
No.
I haven't done brackets in
I made my
20
bracket
years.
today.
No. Unless I'm forced to make a bracket, I will not make a bracket because it
Mizzou?
ruins my enjoyment of the
Yes.
tournament.
Okay, fine. Mizzou is playing. I somehow ended up with Houston winning, so we'll see
Okay.
how
That's
that
not a bad choice.
fares.
I tried to put it into Chat GPT and it wouldn't give me an answer. It
That's
said it
cheating,
doesn't predict
Paul.
the future.
You have to go with your gut.
You're spending a lot of time
Which
with
is fun.
ChatGPT.
Yeah,
True it
which is
all.
brackets are fun for me because I don't really watch college basketball. So it's just based on your gut.
So
now,
Mizzou's in.
Mizzou is in. If you are looking for, they're playing Drake, not the rapper who we have talked about many times on this podcast.
Oh, no.
If you are looking for a women's
Are they
team
playing
to
Lamar?
watch, nice, Darren. If you are looking for a women's team to watch, GCU is a team to watch for the
Yeah.
women's tournament.
Yes.
Nation's longest active win streak with 30 first trip to the NCAA tourney. They have been on fire.
That is crazy. I always pull for Siena because any school that can name themselves after a minivan, I respect them. So I pull for
car
Siena.
guy.
Yeah,
You're a minivan guy.
No. That
Okay.
hurts. That hurts.
Dropped today, Tuesday, Happy Gilmore 2. Coming July
Really?
2025.
Oh.
Mixed reactions.
Have we
from
seen
you
the
both.
trailer? What, you don't like the trailer?
No, I never was big with the first one, and I saw that this morning on Twitter. I'm like, oh, I know where I'm going to be whatever day this is, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Final two have to do with TV shows. Either of you a Simpsons fan?
A little bit.
A little bit.
I'm not. But Disney Plus is having a 24/7 stream of all 767 Simpsons episodes in chronological order.
Wow. Okay.
I know what Paul's doing this weekend.
So you can follow the storyline from the very beginning.
Sure. And last but not least, Ted Lasso.
I
A
did
show
see
I
that.
did love. Season 4 is
Awesome.
officially in the works.
I saw something where he's coaching the women's team.
Yes. Excited for that one.
That reminds me
So
that
you've both been cultured. You're welcome.
2
Thank
days
you,
ago,
Danny. It
my
was good to have you back.
younger brother cut me off from his Netflix subscription, so that wasn't cool.
Did he cut you off? I thought they cut everybody off.
Yeah,
on
I don't know.
purpose.
Somehow I
There's
still
ways
been
around
able
it,
to-
supposedly.
Yeah,
Off the record.
that's what I
I
told
can
him.
fill you in.
He didn't
off air.
seem all that willing to accommodate the fact that I was cheapskating and free riding off his Netflix account, and so we're gonna have some issues when I see him over the summer. So we're gonna have some family beef on that one. So anyway, although I guess it does save me from the buffering and Mike Tyson's naked rear end. So
Next, out of
Next.
context
Yes.
montage. I want that in there 3 times, please.
trying to think of a segue to Kyler in South Korea. There's probably not a good one. So I'll just throw it out there. Darren, you put a little entry there, azcardinals.com. And Rob Fredrickson asked me, with a name like Calvisi, have you ever been to Italy? Sadly, I have not. So Kyler, I'm
Really?
living vicariously through Kyler, as his mother is of Korean descent. And boom, he's in South Korea.
Yes, he's in South Korea, which it was kind of publicized a little bit that he was headed over there. He's been over there for a better part of a week, I guess. And he did a couple of sit-down interviews with a couple of news stations. And, he didn't say a whole lot out of the ordinary. Obviously he was talking about how proud he is of his heritage because on his mom's side and his grandmother's from South Korea. I think that's something he's talked about multiple times before. They asked him about the football team, and he said a lot of the things you're expecting, which is I want to win a Super Bowl for myself, for my teammates, for the fans, for the state of Arizona. The couple things that really caught my ear when I wrote it was one, which I'm okay with on this. Somebody was saying like, what do you do in your time besides play sports? Well, actually, it was basically like you've always been very dialed into sports, like how he didn't really drink or party growing up. And he was talking about how, this has always been very important to him. Now, he did say that I want to get to a Super Bowl. That doesn't mean, and I'm paraphrasing, but he's like, that's not going to fulfill me when it comes to life if I win a Super Bowl. And unsaid was, even if I don't, I'll be okay. Mm-hmm. But he said that is the goal, to get this Super Bowl for all those reasons I said. The other thing I thought was interesting was he was talking about baseball, and he said, if I could go back, there was no way I would switch. I'm happy being a football player. It was always my dream to be the football player. And I think he misses baseball, but it's not nearly as much as people wanted to make it sound in the first place.
He's having a charity softball game, right?
Yes.
Has he held one of those before? Have we seen him
I believe
play?
this is the first one. I think he's played maybe in one, but this is the first one he's done on his own.
I mean, I want to see him at bat. I want to see him swing. I want to see him launch a softball.
There's some YouTube videos of him playing baseball at Oklahoma, and it's...
I mean, it is, yes. Those old baseball.
He was a top 10 major league pick.
I mean, it's ridiculous. By the way, as far as they asked him how far away he thinks the Cardinals are from a Super Bowl, and he said, not far at all. I think anything's possible. That was one quote that was out there.
It was very quick, though.
Yes.
So how close are you? We're not far at all. Yeah. Anything's possible. And that was the end.
He also added, I'm looking forward to this next season. I think as an organization, we're on the up and up, and I'm looking forward to it. So there was that comment. And, okay. I mean, look.
I'm not sure when we're going to talk to Kyler next, so it was good to hear from him.
Yeah. And look, there's a big question hanging over this team and this quarterback, and that is, how can you finish strong? How can you take the end of last season and reverse that? How can you go from being 6-4 at the bye and then figuring out how to finish strong and into the postseason? And even Jonathan Gannon admitted that at one of the late season press conferences. Okay, yeah, we got to look at what happened after the bye. And every team in the offseason self-scouts, and be curious if they come up with any sort of answer to that per se, or just another season of adding better players and more experience. We'll see. By the way, if you could add if you had a top 4 pick like the last couple of years, I like this. Somebody threw this down as a potential question. I want to throw this your way. Who would you target? You know, we've heard so often that this draft isn't loaded with superstars. So unlike the last couple of years, where you really did covet a top 4 pick. This year, not nearly as much, especially not needing a quarterback. I mean, is there someone in this draft that if the Cardinals are picking top 4 would be an absolute slam dunk home run?
Abdul Carter. No?
No, I think there's two. I think Carter's one of them. I would love to see Travis Hunter on this roster.
Interesting.
That is interesting.
I have not hesitation. He's a Heisman winner, and we saw what he put out on film. He's very talented. I am curious what teams are going to do with him.
No,
to
I
a
think
certain
that's fair.
extent, a master of all is a master of none. And so what's worked in college, what is going to work in the pros? I am very intrigued wherever Hunter ends up, what the team decides to do with him.
You could make the argument, though, the way things are set up on this roster, that you could use him a lot at corner and then drop him in a certain package on offense as that speed receiver. I mean, it's not going to happen. He's not going to be there. But that is a name. The Abdul Carter thing, I think before Josh Sweat would have been my number 1 pick, and he looks fantastic. But the Travis Hunter one, I was the one who put down and that's the one that really intrigues me. And I'm dying to know what happens with this top 4 picks, because you can make the argument that 3 of the 4 teams need quarterbacks, not the Patriots, but the other 3 teams need quarterbacks.
Yep.
But how do people feel about Cam Ward and especially Shedeur Sanders? Because there seems to be all over the board on what Shedeur Sanders can do on this level at quarterback.
Yeah. But yeah, Travis Hunter, you're right. I mean, do the Cardinals need a big-time playmaking outside corner? Yes. And could they use an infusion of speed in certain packages on offense? Yes. So that would be a really good fit.
And the other thing, too, is if you look at this team, who would the offensive lineman be that high? I don't know if there is one. I know Will Campbell's name has come up, the LSU tackle, but he's a guy who a lot of people think, because his arms are a little bit shorter, he's going to be a better guard. And maybe he is a Zach Martin type guard. I don't know. But the Hunter one really, especially after the way the Cardinals went through free agency, that's the one that kind of percolated in my head.
I think it was Field Yates who said not too long ago, this is a really good draft if you're a front office who knows what it's doing. Meaning there are definitely players, but it's not that obvious. There aren't that absolute home run picks throughout the top 10 where, even Johnny Fanboy could come up there and throw the card in and hit a home run.
In past years, typically, roughly 7 to 8 of the top 10 picks, people pretty much know where they're going to end up, or at least it's a general consensus of who those top players are going to be. That's not the case this year.
Sounds exciting.
Speaking of the number 4 pick overall, Marvin Harrison Jr., hello, you can now buy a jersey. How about that happening? How about that?
That's nice. Got the whole lawsuit settled thing with Fanatics, and we're all full speed ahead, baby.
They track that, by the way. Don't they every quarterly they put out the top-selling jerseys in the NFL? Considering the pent-up demand for Marvin Harrison Jr., I could see him rocket into the top 10
I did hear some
jersey
good
sales
things over the first weekend from Fanatics that it went very well.
What's everyone going to do with their bootleg jerseys? You keep them.
I don't know what you're talking about, Danny. No one would have had bootleg jerseys.
Speaking of sports business, the Phoenix Business Journal put out that Cardinals' new season ticket sales are exceeding last year's by 50%. In addition to that, the team confirmed to the Business Journal that season ticket renewals, meaning 2024 season ticket holders repurchasing for 2025, the renewal rate is north of 90%, the highest in more than a decade. So, and the team has, as of last count, has sold around 7,000 plus new season tickets for this coming season, which is a clip 50% higher than where sales were at a year ago. So, really intriguing as to what fans are seeing, what they're sensing the Cardinals are building, what the Cardinals are literally physically building in the stadium. Don't exactly know. I just know there's a couple of construction zones in State Farm Stadium. So tick-tock, something's coming. Not sure exactly what. But it's the most season tickets sold at this point in the offseason since State Farm Stadium opened in 2006. Think about that. I mean,
that was an amazing time. So
after a Super Bowl run, after an NFC Championship run in 2015. So I don't know. You guys got any theories? Your finger to the wind on that one? What do you think's at work here?
Is that winning behavior?
What do you sense in the mailbag, Darren?
Ooh,
I guess let me put
good.
it there.
Good segue.
Thank you.
Okay.
I don't sense anything, but I'm going to let Paul take this here.
All right. Winning behavior. Here we go. In 3, 2, 1.
I see you. Let's go.
Can you display winning behavior? You have to consistently display winning behavior.
That's winning behavior.
You got to define what winning behavior is and hold people to that standard.
Yes.
Cowboys football is always more entertaining when they're sniping at each other, is it not?
The
How about this
dramatics
one?
never end.
You know, the whole thing with DeMarcus Lawrence,
Tank.
one of those Lawrences, saying that, he said that to our guy from the Combine, right? That original quote that sparked the whole thing.
When you say our guy, you mean the podcaster on the table across from us who was unhappy that he didn't have his own background, so when he had his camera towards us, it looked like he was podcasting for the Arizona Cardinals.
Yes.
Is that our guy?
That's our guy.
Oh. Well,
kudos to him. Got the scoop.
What DeMarcus Lawrence told that guy was, quote, Dallas is my home, but I know for sure I'm not going to win a Super Bowl there. To which Micah Parsons wrote on social media, this is what rejection and envy look like. This some clown bleep, and then he added a clown emoji. So what's his name, Tank?
Yes.
Tank didn't stand for that. He responded with, calling me a clown won't change the fact that I told the truth. Maybe if you spent less time tweeting and more time winning, I wouldn't have left. Oh, yes. By the way, the Cardinals go to the Cowboys this season.
You just
saying.
can't. You can't write it any better.
Just so good.
You can't write it any better than
good.
that, man. I mean, that's typical Dallas fashion. That is a normal off season, normal news cycle.
Yeah, I'm gonna say. Well, so here's the question: is that winning behavior for Tank Lawrence? He's no longer there.
Here's the thing: I don't have a problem. Personally, like if that's how you feel, and clearly you feel that way because you signed somewhere else, that's fine. I'm not a fan of the back and forth on Twitter.
I am not either. I'm guessing most players would not go in that direction. But anytime these days with Micah Parsons, there's a good chance that's going to be aired out in public.
On a podcast,
way.
on Twitter.
Yeah.
My question is, I would have gone at Tank with the following was, do you really think you're going to win a Super Bowl in Seattle?
Yeah.
I mean,
Do the Cowboys and Seahawks
that's
play
the
each
other
other
thing
this year?
is like Seattle's not like Seattle.
not until they figure out that janky offensive line. Let's just put it that way.
Do they play? No, because if the Cowboys play the NFC West, it's us, third and third, right? There's no way they play Seattle.
Yeah, because we play Cincinnati was third place team and Dallas third place team.
That's
part
right.
of
We
the
played
equation.
Dallas, so you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
By the way, you know what is winning behavior? Speaking of Seattle, did you notice that Sam Darnold was wearing flannel? And Cooper Kupp was not only wearing flannel, but he's wearing flannel over a Pearl Jam concert T-shirt.
Cooper Kupp's from Washington,
I know.
Okay.
I thought the 12s took that personal now as just like so. I mean,
What, to wear flannel?
yeah,
It's making fun of them.
Yeah, like you're supposed to wear flannel when you go to Seattle, but that was so 1990s, right? I mean, but they're still doing that. It's still a thing.
Well, it's nostalgic. In 1990s,
so.
that's
Yeah, that's
25,
in right
30
now.
years
That's
ago,
it.
Paul.
I mean, okay.
That's more than a generation.
So it's gone from jumping the shark to now coming back full circle,
That's right,
and it's just
exactly.
sort of ingrained in the fabric. All right, so there's that one part of winning behavior. Darren, what happened to the Bulls banners?
This is a terrible story, Paul. Disturbed, the rock band Disturbed apparently had a concert at the Bulls arena and used some pyrotechnics. And the pyrotechnics caught the Bulls
What?
championship banners on fire.
Let's see.
Yikes.
That is not winning behavior.
So if
I mean, the winning of the banners is winning behavior. The burning of the banners is not winning behavior.
Right. So if you're counting at home, let's see, LeBron, not 1, not 2, not 3, 6, right? 6.
I don't know if all 6 caught fire.
Okay. All right. Just throwing it out there.
It's the sound of silence.
Wow.
Okay. Darren,
Yes.
your son made the list for winning behavior.
My son did make the list. I know I tend to get a little too personal in here. Danny doesn't like me telling all these personal anecdotes, I'm sure. But
Airing of the grievances,
So,
2025.
quick story. My son had grown out his hair for a few years now.
Was he in a grunge band? Or
No.
Okay.
Mostly his argument to him, to me and his mother most of the time was, I don't want to go get a haircut because then I have to talk to the person giving me a haircut, and I don't want to do that. So he just let it grow out. And
I respect that.
He did the man bun for a while. My son is out of college, so he's an adult now. And
Don't tell Wolf he was rocking the man bun.
well,
Don't tell
I
Wolf
won't.
that. Anyway,
Wolf's-
go ahead.
Okay. But anyway, so he the other day I was sitting at home on a Saturday. He came home. He came in a door where like he can kind of yell around the corner, and he goes, "Are you ready for a jump scare?" And I'm like, "Well, son, you just announced yourself. You're not really going to scare me." And he came around the corner, and he was essentially bald.
Whoa.
Like he essentially
Shorter than a buzz cut?
he went to the 0.5.
Wow. Okay.
And so that was jarring in itself.
Wins basic training.
He did look like it. But then he goes, by the way, I need a stamp. And I'm like, you need a stamp? And he goes, yeah, I need to mail my hair. He had enough hair that when he told the hairstylist that he wanted it buzzed up, and to clarify, they asked him like 7 times, are you sure you want to do this? You sure you want to do this? But he had enough hair that he could donate it to one of those places where they give the hair to cancer kids. So
Winning behavior.
winning behavior
That's
to my
awesome.
son who shaved his head. Now, to be fair, he didn't go in looking to do that, but once he knew he could, he did. So props to my son.
That's very well done. Okay. All right. Has a happy ending there. So we
Definitely
we
winning
enjoy-
behavior.
Yes. No doubt about that. Okay. Let's see. What else did we want to cover here on this edition? Oh, I know. The whole trade scenario. When you guys were in the combine, right?
Yes.
Was there any murmur whatsoever as to whether we're going to get a single stinking round 1 trade before draft day? Why is it so quiet? Was there any sort of theory? What's going on here?
Isn't that crazy?
I honestly, my theory is what we already just talked about, which was nobody knows what anybody wants to do, and nobody knows exactly where all these players fall. And unless you had a first round, part of the difference is this is the first time I can remember, because I was trying to think. I think this is the first time in a long time a future first round pick for what happened to be this season wasn't already dealt last year. Usually you have a trade
true.
of some sort where a future first is dealt, like 2 years ago when the Cardinals got Houston's first round pick last year. Like there was no deal like that. So now you're talking about all about this draft class and why you would make a pick. And the other thing too is as we go, it's getting harder and harder for teams to get a first-round pick in return for a player. I'm sure the Bengals want a first-round pick for Trey Hendrickson, but they're not going to get one.
No.
You know, DK Metcalf wasn't going to get a first-round pick. Anymore, these teams are like, we'll do a trade, and we might give you a couple picks, but you're not getting a first-rounder.
I mean, Pittsburgh gave up a round 2 pick and paid ridiculous top-of-the-market money to DK Metcalf.
Which I'm sorry, but the shenanigans that are going to come out of Pittsburgh's wide receivers room with DK Metcalf and George Pickens is going to be so comical.
And you're assuming Aaron Rodgers doesn't go there. What if Aaron Rodgers goes there? Which is still possible.
So I looked it up because I had a theory. Last year, DK Metcalf had more penalty flags than touchdown catches.
Really?
2 years ago, he had 4 personal foul penalties, just 15-yarders among 8 flags for a receiver.
Well, and I think the money thing is a great part. With the amount of money, most of these big-time players now are getting the reason they get traded is because they have a giant contract coming. And so a team is now saying, I'm not giving you a first and paying this freight. If you want something to get out of paying such and such player, you're going to have to take less as a pick. So that's one of the reasons. I think that's a big reason first-round picks aren't getting done.
You don't have a long list of quarterbacks the way we have in years past, and that is how the rest of the draft always falls, is how many top quarterbacks do teams want. You will have trades. You will have first-round trades come night 1 of the draft, and that's the reason that there haven't been trades right now, which is because it is not the same general consensus of who these top 10 or 12 players are going to be for teams across the board. Now, as players start getting drafted and you start realizing, okay, this is who I see, I don't want to lose him because I don't feel as strongly about other players with other positions we need, I'm going to jump up and get who I want. So the reason that you haven't seen trades yet will be the reason you see trades on draft night.
So if the Giants don't get Aaron Rodgers, for example, do you expect them to try and jump up from 3 to 1? And go after Cam Ward?
They might. Here's my question for you guys. And we're early. We still got over a month till the draft. Is there a chance there's only one first-round quarterback? Could Shedeur Sanders fall to the second round?
That feels so unlikely.
I agree with you.
I mean, we've heard a lot about Jackson Dart being that guy coming up the board. Tyler Shuck is starting to climb. There's always that guy, Darren. There's always that guy who climbs in like March and April. And, you know, Anthony Richardson was that guy a couple of years ago. I mean, honestly.
Yeah, that didn't work out so well.
If Jackson Dart or Tyler Shuck or maybe even Shedeur Sanders, who knows what's is there at 16? I could see the Cardinals parlaying that into a trade.
Oh, okay.
Team
trading.
Coming up and offering number 16, right, in return for, and the Cardinals trade out of 16 because there's still a quarterback sitting there. I could definitely see that.
I think that's possible.
Absolutely.
But I also think, given where they are and given the vagaries of this draft and who likes who, and there's probably going to be a lot of different draft boards, I think Monty's going to have some options.
By the way, Danny, I should have interjected earlier. I should have come off getting cultured in the DK Metcalf with the following question. This is a genuine question. So it says here that DK Metcalf had the week of his life. Okay, he got traded, got a new 5-year contract worth $150 million. I don't know how much is guaranteed to that. Then 3 days later, he went even bigger, proposing to his longtime girlfriend, pop R&B singer Normani.
Close.
Okay. All right.
I've never heard of him.
So they he tried. Come on. So they supposedly got set up by Russell Wilson and Sierra.
Yes, I saw that.
I feel like we just got bonus getting cultured.
You did.
Yeah. How about that?
Great job, Paul.
So the question is Russell Wilson coming back to rejoin DK Metcalf in Pittsburgh?
I don't think they want that.
But
they may not have a choice.
Yes. So there's that. There's also the holy cannoli stat. Do you guys realize just how large the right side of the Chargers O-line is at this point? Did you see this?
I did not.
Joe Alt, 6'8.5", 323 is your right tackle. The new right guard, Mekhi Becton, a mountain of a man, 6'7", 364.
Oh, my gosh.
So when the Chargers...
Who's got it better than them?
When it's 3rd and a half yard, where do you think the Chargers are going to run the ball? Here it comes over the right side.
Najee Harris.
And Najee Harris,
Harris,
who's
right.
not a small man
right.
himself.
So is there any doubt what Jim Harbaugh is building with the Chargers?
No.
I mean, he always goes that direction. That is just
That's fantastic.
Yeah, that was good stuff.
Yikes.
So I don't know if this edition of Cardinals Underground was as big as the right side of the Chargers offensive line, but
Bigger.
Well, it was apparently so disappointing that Vasky left.
Matthew, our camera operator, just bailed.
Oh, there he is. Good to see he decided to do
He's
his
not
work.
even in the room. He's on the other side of the glass.
actually, you know what?
Alex is here for us, though.
Thank goodness.
All right, Alex, here we go. We're leaving Alex with this holy cannoli stat. I wish I could claim this, but the 33rd team posted running backs with the highest percentage of the rushes going for 10 or more yards last season. Jahmyr Gibbs, number one, at more than 16% of his carries went for 10-plus yards. But you know what? Who's right on his heels? James Conner at 14.4%.
A whole percentage bigger than Saquon Barkley, which I cannot believe.
Was it Jacoby Brissett who said he watched last year, Week 15, Cardinals-Patriots, and he's watching James Conner. He's like, okay, is he aging backwards?
I've thought the same thing. Wow. We've talked about this.
Yeah.
We talked about James Conner looking like he's his best right now.
See, I always thought it was Aaron Donald because the two of them would train together. And then when Aaron Donald retired, I'm like, oh, well, James, what are you going to do now? Well, apparently, his off seasons haven't fallen off. Apparently.
Let's put it this way. James Conner's the kind of guy that if he said, hey, Darren, why don't you come do a workout with me? And I'd be scared out of my mind.
Whose workout would you do on the team?
Well, probably nobody. Aaron Brewer. No offense, Aaron.
So I got a buddy of mine. He's an ultra runner. He once did a 200-mile race.
Those people are intense.
And he regularly does these 100-mile races. His idea of a vacation, which he just booked, is going
that running like 100 miles or
yes.
jogging or whatever?
Look up the western states.
Jogging.
It's around Tahoe. You go, through snow and whatever. Anyway, he also did, and I wish, I think it's the Badlands 120. You have to qualify. This is a global thing. It's in Death Valley.
Oh, I've heard of this.
So
that's crazy.
When you leave the valley floor in Death Valley, it's 110, 113. You go all the way up whatever the mountain is. I should know the name of it, but you go up to like 8,000 feet, and then you descend, and it's 120 miles. They actually have a forum of these ultra runners where they post their hallucinations. I was at mile 67, and I saw an alien spacecraft land with a bunch of cows coming out of it, like stuff like that. So anyway, he booked his summer vacation, and it's like a 10-day hike that covers 150 miles, and at each stage of the hike, there's like huts or little abodes, and that's his idea of a vacation.
That's his vacation.
So his buddy, I bring that up because his buddy a few years ago joined him on one of these excursions, and after
on the excursion or on the race?
Well, no, on the vacation.
Oh, on the
vacation. That's a ridiculous
vacation.
hike. And on day 5 of a 10-day affair, he had to be helicoptered out. The buddy who joined him.
And then he kept going?
And then, they kept going. They said, well, here, we'll razz him about that later. And they kept going.
How was your vacation, Fred?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's the kind of vacation you need a vacation from after.
Yeah, so.
Yikes.
I don't share with them that I went for a hike Sunday afternoon and ended up dehydrated.
They wanted you to pole vault,
Called in
Paul.
sick Monday.
And with that, that'll do it for this edition, another losing edition by yours truly of Cardinals Underground.
Backwards, Paul. Backwards.
Brought to you by Pacific Office Automation. We'll edit that out later.
That's my favorite meme.